Pukekohe, home of the Counties Racing Club. Today, though, it's the scene for the first leg of the double in the Mobile Motorsports Series for 96, and a huge crowd is packed into Puke today for the first round of this high-octane debate between the great Aussie V8s. We are talking about the battle between Ford and Holden, Commodore and Falcon. Let's take a look at how these top guns, a dirty dozen of the V8 supercars from Australia, feel about today's need for speed. Well, I already feel like I'm in New Zealand every time I go to work. About 80% of the team's New Zealanders, so I almost feel at home.
I think you're going to see a lot more paint swapping and guys really having a go at one another. And bear in mind, it is the last races of the year, so they've got plenty of time to fix their car.
These will be a hell of a lot easier to run around there than a 2-litre car, I think, especially a front-wheel drive one.
The fans are just going to get blown away by these cars. Like, they've seen the little 2-litre cars, which, are about as exciting as watching the grass grow. Wait till they see these big V8s. They just go so quick.
Probably the cars are about twice as powerful as they need be for that tight Wellington street race, but gee, the spectators are going to be in for a real treat, I reckon.
Oh, look, I've been to New Zealand about 10 times racing over many years, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Can't wait, I'm looking forward to it. To tell you the truth, I've actually never been to New Zealand before.
Because they're sprint races, they don't have to take care of the car too much, so there'll be a bit of this going on.
Half the people in New Zealand are just as nuts as these guys are. They love the Fords and the Holdens, and especially the V8.
Well, Wellington, here we come. 1996, street race is going to be something else.
This is the field as they line up on the front row of the grid for the first race in the Australian Touring Car Showdown of the Mobile Auckland Sprints today. And it's the flying Kiwi Greg Murphy. He'll start from pole with his time 57.03. Alongside him, Glenn Seaton with a 57.4. He's also done a 57 flat in practice today. Paul Radisich, the second Kiwi in the Ford Falcon as well. Third on the grid. Alongside him, Wayne Gardner in the Coca-Cola McDonald's Racing Commodore. Alongside him, the Ford Castrol Yokohama Falcon of Tony Longhurst at 57.6, and then the mobile man himself, Peter Brockham, the Holden Racing Team Commodore with the 57.67. And as you can see, it's a very, very tight grid. Alan Jones for position number 7, and then it's John Bell in the Shell FAI racing car. That's the Ford Falcon as well. Alongside him, team boss Dick Johnson in car number 9 on the 9th row of the grid, on car number 17, I should say. And of course, Neil Crompton, the second of the 2 Coke cars. Rounding out the rest of the grid, it's the 2 Castrol Commodores of Larry Perkins and also Russell Ingall as they line up down the start-finish straight. Wayne Munro and Stephen Johnson. Stephen's just jumped straight out of the old Trans Am. This should be something special here today, the first showdown in the Mobile Auckland Sprints.
It really should be. The track, even though it is quite overcast, it is fairly hot, and I know in my race the tyres did get extremely hot, and they're going to be struggling towards the 20-lap race today.
And Wayne Munro, how do you see the showdown between the Fords and the Commodores and this Kiwi crowd? I mean, 25,000-30,000 to see the great V8s.
Just goes to show you, Clint, just what the Kiwi audience wanted. The Kiwi boy out front on pole position. Sensational lap time yesterday was he gets the 5-second board, and Radisich on the second row. We couldn't have it better. What a setting.
Both Gardner and, of course, Greg Murphy were practicing their starts, and let's see how they get off. And Greg Murphy's got off to a good start.
Oh, Rocky gets a hit too, Clint, from behind by Dick, I think. Stephen, it's Dick or John Bell gave him a bit of shunt as Brocky bogged it down the line.
No, it was actually John Bow then that got a very bad start, and unfortunately Peter Brock got a bad start as well, so they're towards the end of the field.
So two of the more experienced campaigners off to a bit of a slow start, but it's the flying Kiwi Greg Murphy. He's got a great start down the back straight for the first time in the #1 Mobile Holden Racing Team Commodore. And closely followed by him, you'll see coming into picture now the Ford Credit Ford Falcon of Glenn Seaton, and then I think it's Paul Radisich followed by Tony Longhurst.
Well, Kiwis 1 and 3. We couldn't have it better. Fantastic start by Murph and really blitzed away from there. That's a pretty hard job to get one of those beasts off the line, I think, Stephen.
Oh, it is an extremely hard job, but you've got to have the revs perfect for these cars to be able to get off the line good. And I saw Greg practicing his starts earlier on today and warm up, and he just did a fantastic job then.
So at the end of the first lap, don't forget it's 3 20-minute sprint races, and it's Greg Murphy. Greg Murphy doing a fantastic job through the S's, into Railway onto the back straight for the second time. Remember, he's taken over from Craig Lowndes, who's testing for Formula 3000 in Europe, and a good performance over the next week in this fast lane festival of motorsport here at Pukekohe in Wellington. He could be the other driver to team up with Peter Brock full-time next year in the Australian Touring Car Championships.
Well, that's what everyone's picking, and I mean, after his qualifying performance yesterday, the Aussie journos were in awe of the guy. They already know him real well from his Audi drive in Australian Super Tours, of course, but it's been a while since someone has actually taken out that big a gap in qualifying on the rest of the field as Murph flies it over the bumps, over the top of Mobile Mounted, really working at the wheel there, Steve.
I was really talking to Murph.
Oh, the big smash, and it's Neil Crompton in one of the Coca-Cola Commodores, and that McDonald's bumper looks like junk food, doesn't it?
Sure does. Out over at the hairpin, we saw something happening in the background there as we're looking at Murph leaving the corner.
I wasn't sure what happened there. I saw.
Let's take a look and just see Murphy in the Iowa replay. He gets away nice and clean, followed by the rest of the Falcons, and then just coming into shot now. She's pretty tight round there, and he gets shunted out by one of the FII Shell cars onto the grass, does a bit of lawn mowing, clips Larry Perkins, and then we've got two cars out.
Just what we did need. We've been saying what a day of carnage it's been at Pukekohe as Larry pulls the older VP Commodore into pit lane. Lots of damage down the side from that side shunt.
Larry was extremely lucky there. He got a fairly hard hit from Crompton, who obviously got pushed out a bit by, I think it was John Bow, went up the inside, and very lucky not to tip over then.
He'll be very disappointed too, Lazar, because I was talking to him just before, Larry Perkins, and he knows that the car's been struggling with the bumpy setup around here at Pukekohe, so he knows they were going to run down the back of the field, but not that far back.
If anyone seemed to notice, Larry has brought the older model VP Commodore here instead of the VR, obviously chasing front-end grip, which he thinks the VP is a lot better. That's why he ran the car at Bathurst. On board now, as you can see, 3 Sport heading into the end of the back straight. You can see Murph's there in first gear, into second gear, up to third. I think you'll see him keep pulling the gears up to 5th gear. There's 5th gear there, and he's just going to cruise across the top, and all he's got to do is look after his tyres. This is the part where the cars get real twitchy with a bit of attitude, and then how bumpy is it? We went for a lap with Tony Longhurst yesterday, and round here they'd start to really bump up, doesn't it? Oh, it's unbelievable. These cars do handle the bumps quite a lot better than the Trans Am that I drive. I can tell you every lap that I come down there, the Trans Am bottoms out at least 4 or 5 times, so it is extremely bumpy down the front. And it's an amazing feeling when you come out onto the start of the back straight. It's like driving on gritty soap, isn't it? Just power through. Oh, it's unbelievable. You've got to really be careful of the curve on the outside. If you hit the curve on the outside, it can really turn you around really quick and slow you run down the chute. They're hitting speeds of up to 260 k's at the end of this back straight, and then the power brakes go on, flames coming out, and the Ford Credit Falcon closing in a little bit of Glenn Seaton. Greg Murphy still leading. Let's go down to the pits and have a talk to Murray Taylor with Larry Perkins.
Well, Larry Perkins looking very disappointed. An early finish.
Yeah, definitely early. Yeah, she was very hectic out there, and Neil Crompton got pushed wide at the hairpin and got well in the dirt, and consequently got very sideways and speared across the track, and his T-boned me when I'm just trying to drive up the straight there.
Well, a big bash you out for the day?
Oh, I don't think so. We're just assessing it now. It's certainly pushed the side of the car in, 10 inches or so, but we're just checking to make sure the back axle's not massively bent. And but no, I think we can be running. It'll be in a bent state, but I think structurally it's still sound.
He's still out in the front. It's Greg Murphy, the New Zealander in the Commodore, Glenn Seaton in the Falcon, Holden, Ford, 1 and 2 at this stage.
I was just looking at the lap times, and the last lap time from Glenn Seaton is 0.4 of a second faster than Greg Murphy, so he's definitely catching him.
Well, visibly, look how close he's moving in there on Murph as they go across the top of Mobile Mountain. Flames belching out of the HRT car as he changes gear, belting down the front straight here, and Seaton closing in. We thought he would be one of the runners here, and both of them, of course, on Bridgestones, which has got to be the tyre of choice in this class, Steve.
Oh, definitely. The Bridgestones are just an amazing tyre. I don't think anyone has ever seen anything like it. But Seaton did have a problem yesterday. He didn't get to run his second set of tyres in qualifying, so maybe that's why he didn't improve. But he's obviously got his car sorted now, and he's really closing up on Murphy.
57.3, the fastest lap so far for Glenn Seaton. They cracked a piston yesterday and had to put a new engine in overnight. And Glenn's very relaxed. I mean, he just loves the scene here at Pukekohe. He's very happy with the car. No problems about the bumps. He thinks it's fantastic to have such a huge crowd here, and I think all the Aussie V8 boys are just loving it. And he'll be loving this, being right on the bumper of the HRT Commodore.
I tell you what, I think I'd sooner be in Murphy's position than Glenn, because it is extremely hard to pass around there. There's not many places to pass, and these cars are extremely close down the straight, and you definitely won't see, unless Greg makes a mistake coming onto the straight, you won't see him passing down the straight.
But you can see Glenn Seaton's really going to put the acid on the Kiwi kid. He's going to test him out. Brocky was saying before, it looks like maybe these guys have shocked the opposition with Murph's performance yesterday. Look at Seaton, really close through the S's there, really gets tight on him, looking for a run down the back straight, but hello, HRT just goes away from, in the wall.
Longhurst has hit the wall. Well, he's done that in Wellington a couple of years ago, and he won't be happy about kissing the Armco here at Pukekohe. So obviously this is the third of the high-profile cars to suffer a bit of a shunt here at Pukekohe.
I think he's actually missed the wall. He's just he's had a spin coming into the bus stop down there to Railway, and he's obviously just spun off into the sand, and he's just got bogged.
Well, he'd be pleased he hasn't hit the wall.
Wants a push. He's pointing to all the photographers there to stop taking photos and give me a push, you guys. Come on, get out here. Now the marshals started to stir themselves, responding to the frantic hand signals there from the boss.
Back on board with Greg Murphy and the Mobile One in-car camera, putting you in the driver's seat. 3 Sport through this S's. There's Tony Longhurst. So he's gone straight through those S's at that little chicane, and then onto the back straight now for Greg Murphy. Tell us what it's like to go down the back straight here at Pukekohe, Stephen Johnson.
You come onto the back straight really trying to get a good run, and I tell you what, all you can see is just black road in front of you. It is that long down there, and once you come to this, that corner doesn't look like much on TV, but I'll tell you what, when you're doing 280 odd kilometres an hour, it's a fairly frightening corner.
Paul Radisson for the British Touring Car Championships under pressure from Wayne Gardner.
I was just about to notice, I noticed on the lap times that Wayne Gardner has done a quite quick lap time of 58.22, which was, and his last lap was 0.6 of a second faster than Paul's, so I thought they'd be fairly close.
So the world bike star, the 500cc world champ, making a big comeback here. Of course, it's quite interesting that these guys...
Look at that, Wayne Gardner! He's lost it over Mobile Mountain.
Oh, the Coke boys won't be happy about that. They've had a terrible race this race with Compton out and now Gardner.
Well, it's obviously got a bit twitchy in a car with attitude, the wrong sort of attitude, and he's just spun it offline. Look at the huge crowd here. They'll be just buzzing. They'll be going off. Unbelievable. Smack bang in the middle of the track right in front of us. Wayne Gardner, superb crash for the fans. Bad for the team, though. Let's see what happened. Just coming up right behind Radisich.
There's quite a big bump right in the middle here, and I think he's just hit, there's one big bump when you get back on the throttle, and he's basically just lost control and smacked into the wall. It looked like it hit pretty hard on the right front wheel, so there's no doubt he's got some steering damage.
Unbelievable stuff. The poor Coke team, I mean, they came here, you know, looking for such a great performance out of these two cars, and poor old Wayne Gardner just whams it, slams side on into the Armco, top of the hill. All that crowd up there getting this action wham in their face as the Ford Explorer pace car slows everybody down to a crawl.
I think they may have to change Mobile Mountain now to the Big Mac.
not the introduction you were looking for to Pukekohe. What happened? Was it the bumps?
No, the back tyre blew out in the corner, in the middle of the corner, it blew out, and obviously it turned me into a spin and spun me around, so I was lucky that I actually got away with minor damage. Particularly, it's a very, very fast corner, so the tyre's just not up to the job.
Well, Wayne, you were on a charge there.
Yeah, it was going good. I think I probably would have got pole, and the car was feeling pretty good and working good, and I was pretty confident with it, but that just came out of the blue. It's something that just becomes, it's unexpected, obviously, and it just spun the car into a spin straight away without any premonition or any no knowledge that was going to happen. So yeah, it was a little frightening. I got a bit of a headache from it all, but fortunately the car's not too bad.
Okay, you've had a look at the car.
Yeah, the back tyre's blowing out, but the car's not too bad, fortunately. But I don't know if we'll be out the rest of the day. It was pretty disappointing. The tyres just went up to the job.
Okay, well, a big crowd there to see you go off.
Yeah, well, fortunately, as I said, it wasn't a big crash because the car's not too bad shape. It's disappointing because I think we had a good third place there.
Okay, we're about to go again, so we're back with the commentators. Thanks, Wayne.
So take a look again, and it's, of course, it's the black back tyre that just blew out there and sent Gardner into the spin, into the wall, and out of the race. The good news for Kiwi fans is that Greg Murphy actually held on to win the race and did a great performance coming down to take the first race after the restart. So it was number one, first Greg Murphy, the HRT Holden Commodore, Glenn Seaton second in the Ford Falcon, Peter Brock giving Mobil a 1-3 finish, coming home third, followed by Paul Radisich in another Ford Falcon, and then Alan Jones and the other Allied Movers Ford Falcon, rounding out the dramatic top five for the first showdown of the supercars today.
Well, Neil, happier times there with your IndyCar test in the States, but not a very happy day today.
No, very disappointing. Both the Coca-Cola Commodores are out of business, and that's a real shame because our cars were quite good. Both looking forward to doing 3 races here and being competitive, but that's not to be.
Quite a bit of carnage.
Yeah, the front of my car's a mess. It's had it, and the full front right-hand corner of Wayne's car and right down the right-hand side, it's shot as well. So,
well, just talk us through the accident. What happened?
Well, you've got to go back a previous lap to start with, I guess. John Bow outbraked Peter and I on the outside going down to the hairpin. On the second lap, or the beginning of the second lap, if you like, I then did the same to John. So I rounded him up on the outside. As we came off, he came over and assumed the natural race line and squeezed me up onto the grass. And once you get out there, there's not a lot of grip. So as a passenger, the car semi-turned around, came back onto Larry Perkins as I was crossing the track. But Larry was an innocent bystander, and unfortunately, it's one of those things.
Magic Murphy, young Murph from Hawke's Bay, been out there and done the number on these guys. Steve Johnson, your countryman, he's sort of dealt to them a bit severely so far, hasn't he?
He has. He's done extremely well the first race, and I really don't think that it's going to change much in the second. I think him and Glenn will have a great race together, and it'll be for the miners behind them.
And the word coming from the pits is more drama. We may have a problem for number 6. That's the Ford Falcon of Paul Radisich. The word is he might be out of this race with a blown engine. So that would be more drama here already. This is the race 2, of course, the 20 lap or the 20-minute sprint race. They're going to go for their warm-up lap now, and you've got to keep your eyes out for 2 blue Ford Falcons. One's number 9, driven by Alan Jones. That looks like the car there. And, of course, Paul Radisich, car number 6.
Not there. Yeah, definitely missing. He was on the second row of the grid. Oh, he should have been up there, yes, on the second row. Finished 4th place, and this is where the grid positions come from for this race. Greg Murphy, Glenn Seaton finished in that order, and that's the way we pick them up for the start of their second race. They're running in the order in which they finished the previous race, which was, of course, off qualifying yesterday, which Murph took out. Brocky in the 3rd spot. Paul Radisich meant to be alongside, and maybe he's going to join the grid from the back, but that's not the desired place for our Kiwi Super Touring Car star. AJ, Alan Jones, the 1980 Formula 1 World Champ in position 5. Dickie Johnson, whose son Steve's here with us, is in the 6th spot in the Shell FIA Falcon. In the next door spot, or right behind, John Bow in the team car. Russell Ingall in one of the 2 Castrol Perkins Commodores in the number 8 spot. And Tony Longhurst had the spin out of the first race, back in action off the 9th spot for this.
And that's, of course, that space behind the Ford Falcon of Glenn Seaton is where Paul Radisich would have been, but he's out with the blown engines. That's tragedy for one of the two Kiwis. So it's just down to Greg Murphy on pole for race 2. Gets off to a pretty steady start. Look at Brock.
Murph bogged it down. Murph has bogged it down, and Brocky's gone through following Glenn Seaton. So Murph couldn't quite pull off the 2 in a row. He did a great job first time out, but now he's got all the work to do. What are his chances?
It's going to be extremely tough for him at the moment. These first few laps, they're going to have to settle down. Obviously, they're all going to be going extremely fast, and I think Murph is going to have his work cut out, especially passing his teammate and Glenn Seaton.
He'll be pretty annoyed at that because in the practice sessions this morning, he sat there in that spot and practiced his starts, and he got off to good starts. Look at this though, the dogfight up towards the hairpin.
Peter Brock trying the outside line around Seaton at the hairpin. First time, Seaton shows him the outside of the track. Brocky says, okay, I will give way to you right now. Now we've got this 2 mobile HRT cars side by side, and Murph's going to take it back from Brock. So he shows the master the way around the S's on the way up to Mobile Mountain.
And remember, of course, this is where they almost collided yesterday in practice, and Brocky's down the inside again.
That was a good move by Murphy, actually. He saw Brock try to pass Seaton on the outside and basically got hung out to dry, and Murphy just followed Seaton from the inside and passed him. Great pass.
The question is now, can he close the gap on Glenn Seaton, the Ford Credit Ford Falcon, out in front? So it's Ford, Commodore, and then the rest of the chasing pack as they sprint down, stretch the big legs, down the back straight of Pukekohe. You're on board with Greg Murphy in the Mobile 1, number 1 Commodore.
So full noise down the back straight, 6th gear, chopping it down, getting down to first. Who's that? Is that Dad coming through or JB?
It looks like Johnny Bow up from group 7. He's passed a few up there. He passed Jonesy on that last lap, so he's on a bit of a charge at the moment.
So the HRT guys turning on the fun, and I think Murph is going to be giving Glenn Seaton some grief pretty quickly, because last time we saw them...
Whoa, Rocky! Whoa, doing a bit of the old lawnmower and just going into Mobile Mountain. He had it up on 2 wheels, so he's got a bit of the old attitude back into that 05 Commodore. And the main man, Brocky, wants to get back into the top 3 and try and teach these young guys how to do it.
You can really see Brocky then having a big go. He's really throwing that car around, trying to keep up and trying to be real aggressive, which we saw last year when he was running the Trans Ams with us.
So no team waters on the HRT team quite often.
No,
HRT team
doesn't
quite
look like it, does it? No.
Not at all. They just shoulder each other out of the way. No problem. Here comes Murph attacking Seaton. A good fight between Alan Jones coming back at John Bow in the FAA Falcon and the Allied Movers Falcon. John Bow holding it.
Oh, Murphy! No, Brock getting a little loose, and Bow's going to take advantage of that. Shall we take it? Oh, look at that. This is going off these guys. Peter Brock just getting it loose coming out of the hairpin, and old Johnny Bow. Yeah, I'll take that spot, no problem.
It doesn't take much to pick up a position or lose a position. It takes just a little mistake like that. You go a little bit sideways, and you can see it here on the replay.
Check it out. Brocky just getting out on the strips, getting on the marbles first, then out onto the bump strip. And no traction out there, that's for sure. So John Bow down the back straight there in the Falcon. One of the few guys running. He's doing the best out of the Dunlop runners right now, Steve.
Yeah, the Dunlops are fairly struggling at this track at the moment. Most of the tyres on the car are fine, except for the left-hand rear, which obviously most of the corners of Pukekohe are right-handers, which really load the left rear of the... Here comes Brocky.
Brocky setting him up.
Oh, Brocky! Whoa, big twitch there. Recovers well. He's having a classic rate. The old legend himself, isn't he?
He's having a go, I can tell you that. He's using every bit of the track and more.
I reckon JB watched the same thing, watched the replay of the last race, and the Craig Baird pulled the same move in the New Zealand touring car race. I think Brocky saw that, decided that's for me as well. Did it to Radisich last race. This time when he tries to do it again, no way.
Peter Brock, let's take a look at the legend, of course, the 3-time Australian touring car champion. 9 wins at Bathurst, shooting for number 10. Will it come along? Bart Cummings did it in the Melbourne Cup. Can Brocky do it for the fans at Mount Panorama? 2-time winner of the Wellington Street Race. He won back here in 1990 in a Ford Sierra at Pukekohe with Andrew Madecki, and he was 4th in this year's Australian touring car champion. Peter Brock and the HRT team.
Geez, it's fairly close here, isn't it? You can't put a paper between all these guys, and Johnny Bow's one of the hardest guys to pass in the touring car scene, so all the 3 guys behind him are going to have to work extremely hard.
But this is what the crowd have come to see here at Pukekohe.
Here we go. There's Brocky trying to get around the outside on the left-hander. So come the right-hander across the mountain, he's going to be on the right line. But what happens? Gets loose out there. Bow gives him no room.
This has got the same sort of buzz as Bathurst. In fact, it probably feels bigger than Bathurst at the moment, because for New Zealand teams or New Zealand fans, we haven't seen the entire field of V8s. It's always been either your father, Dick Johnson, or Peter Brock out here against the BMW. So it really has been a fantastic day so far. Over the top of Mobile Mountain, the #1 HRT Commodore, Greg Murphy. Murph on his home turf, and he makes it back-to-back wins in the V8 Supercar. Second, John Bow. Third, Alan Jones. Then Dick Johnson. Coming down to the finish line will be Tony Longhurst, and then Larry Perkins, Glenn Seaton, rounding out the 8 cars left in the field of the 12 starters from the 2 races. And there it is, another great performance by Greg Murphy.
I don't care what people do with the tyre rule after this, but this is what brought the punters out to Pukekohe today. They wanted to see a Kiwi win, to see if he could do it, and having been here and seen him do it twice, especially after a bit of a botch start, that's awesome. And I mean, this crowd, 30,000 people out there, just loving it.
Yeah, I know Murphy's done quite a lot of laps around Pukekohe.
So just confirm those results for the Australian touring cars. Greg Murphy first in the #1 car. So he's back-to-back victories, and he's taken 20 points so far from the 2 races. 40 points, I should say. Of course, it's 20 points for a win. John Bow second, Alan Jones third, Dick Johnson fourth. Rounding out the field, Tony Longhurst fifth, Russell Ingall sixth, then Glenn Seaton, Larry Perkins, and of course Peter Brock finishing with a few problems down the back of the field. Stay with us. Plenty of great racing to come this afternoon with the Mobile Auckland Sprints. So let's take a look at the grid now for the last of the V8 sprint races. It's Greg Murphy, car #1, starting from #1. Alongside him, John Bow from Tasmania and the Ford Falcon. So those are the front 2. Then Alan Jones, followed by Dick Johnson. And can he go quicker than, what, about 57 seconds and beat his son in the Trans Am? Tony Longhurst, car #25 in the Ford Falcon. And then Russell Ingall getting up there to the 6th row in the #8 Castrol Commodore. Of course, he's also won Bathurst before with Larry Perkins, and Glenn Seaton, and then Larry Perkins, followed by Peter Brock and Paul Radisich. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the 10 cars, especially those back markers, some of the big names like Brock, like Radisich, like Perkins, to see if they can fight their way through the field. And Stephen Johnson, I suppose the other thing is the tyres. I mean, they're going to be riding on some loose rubber here, aren't they?
Yes, they definitely are. I was down the pits actually after the race, and the left rear tyre on my father's and John's car was absolutely shot. The front tyres on the HRT cars are absolutely shot. Seaton's tyres, we were remarking that Seaton may have had a problem. He didn't have a problem. The only problem he had was that he had no tyres left. So
and that was the second set he'd put on for the second race, and yet Murph was still on the first set. So
that's right.
They're going to be all over the place, Wayne.
They sure are. I don't like Seaton's chances of coming from the back of the field to try and get up there with these guys. I mean, Murph really has got it made for this race, that's for sure. Not to say that things can't go wrong. We don't want to do anything to put the kiss on him, but there you go, Paul Radisich.
Well, what about Paul Radisich? I mean, he's missed one race, so his tyres, what, perhaps a little bit better shape?
Yeah.
He'll be on brand new rubber, I would say.
Well, he's done a 57.6 in practice, so there's no reason why Radisich here couldn't get up there and do the business and mix it with these boys. But he won't be throwing the old Ford around like he does the Mondeo and the BTC.
I think the two people that are watching this race really are Peter Brock and Paul Radisich, who are basically last and second last.
All right, here they go. Race #3 to wrap up Pukekohe, the Mobile Auckland Sprint. It's been a sensational day today. We'll update the point situation throughout the race. Let's see if Murphy gets a better start. He does this time. John Bow making a good move too. So's Dick Johnson. Tricky Dicky down the outside, straight up into second. Oh, sensational stuff by the Queenslander.
Steve's heart's beating really hard because it's great to see his dad's team doing so well at the start of this race. Longhurst or someone actually clipped the tyres and sent them flying. Not sure who that was, because there's a big ruck of cars really stuck together there at the back half of the grid. But a great start from Murphy this time. No balking on the start line, no problems whatsoever. Really nailed it and got away clean.
No, he actually got the start absolutely perfect. Then he must have got the revs just right, slipped the clutch just that enough, and he got away perfect. But I tell you what, the old man didn't do too bad a job either.
Oh, sensational start by Tricky Dick.
Oi,
look, it's John Bow. He's come back and says, hey, what are you doing?
JB hit him, I'm sure of it.
He's lost another place too. I think one of the other cars snuck in front of him. Yes, it's Russell Ingle, I think, and the Castrol Commodore has snuck up there as well.
Yes, and anyone thinks that there's T-borders in there, you better think again, haven't you?
Indeed, that's right. Well, maybe there will be after this meeting.
To go on board the 05 car of Peter Brock, sensational shot, the man behind the wheel. As he hasn't got the race face on today, but I think he'll have it on next week round Wellington. Great shot from the 3 Sport team here at Pukekohe today.
Oh, Radisson's through the dirt.
Is that Paul?
That is Paul.
Yep, damage too on the front spoiler. That's not going to help his chances at all. In fact, that's goodbye really to any chance of getting a good place in this race.
Yeah, once you lose your spoiler there, the under trail of the spoiler, you lose too much downforce, and he'll keep up with him there, but unfortunately it'll be a bit of a drama for him for the rest of the race.
Replay here. Let's see what happened when your dad gets on the outside of his teammate John Bow. You can see a bit of a nudge there, and he takes a little bit of a wide line.
And once again coming down through the S's. Oh, straight over the grass. He's done the Lawn Master.
I think probably Paul might have been caught out a little bit by the other guys braking a little bit early and took that route instead of hitting straight up the back of Peter there.
Down the start, finish straight. Look at the dogfight developing down the field. And check this out, Brocky going past, I think it's Larry Perkins. Now you're on board. And that must be the car of Peter Brock, is it?
Sure is. Brocky chasing them through the S's there. Brocky's back in 8th place at the moment, tracking Glenn Seaton. Tony Longhurst ahead of Seaton. And then, of course, Dick Johnson, Alan Jones run up ahead of them.
Now that those tyres are knocked out of the inside here, coming down into the S's down the bottom, you're going to see quite a lot of corner cutting there.
And listen to the sound of this V8.
Boy, is that busy. Look at this traffic jam down at the hairpin. Glenn Seaton still caught up in the midst of that. Right behind the back there of Dad, is it? Yep. Dick Johnson, Peter Brock tracking them.
That was a brave move by Longhurst. He actually passed him around the outside there.
And damage on that car for sure. Look at the damage down the side of it.
Time so far on this race, round about the 58.2, the fastest by Greg Murphy. John Bow second, 58.6. There's the gap, first, second, third. Look at this, the Commodore of Ingle holding on to the dog for, oh, poor Radisson's. He's had a bit of a shocker, hasn't he?
He has, really. Russell Ingle doing a great job here. He's holding down the 3rd spot, way up ahead of Brocky in this fight. That's Longhurst. There's Dick Johnson. Back behind him, Glenn Seaton, then Brocky.
These cars here just sound absolutely fantastic down the straight. They're all 12 of them roaring down there. It's just unbelievable. It's like reminiscing of Conrod Straight at Bathurst.
Yeah, they really hit the high speed too, and it's amazing when you hit the brakes. You've what, about 100 metres out, and it's just big braking, isn't it? Late and hard.
Basically, I'm not sure where they're braking in these cars. I think they're a little bit later than the Trans Am, but I basically sort of count 2 seconds after the 200, and that's where I brake.
Alan Jones starting to give the hurry up to Russell Ingle here. Russell in the Castrol Commodore, leading Alan Jones's Allied Movers Falcon, and AJ really putting the pressure on the last lap.
This could actually be vital for the points today, seeing as Alan Jones is only 2 points behind John Bow, and John Bow's 2 places ahead of him.
Yeah, well, the point situation, of course, Murphy got it well and truly locked up at the moment, and in the next spot,
Murphy's got 40 points, Jones has got 28, then it's Bow, and I should say Bow and Seaton with 26 points, Johnson with 24.
I think you're finding now that the Bridgestone tyres are starting to come good with Alan Jones there behind Russell, and Russell's on Dunlops, and he's starting to hurt a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, well, Russell definitely getting picked up there, and AJ really putting the pressure on, but he's getting company from behind as well from Tony Longhurst and his Falcon. And here comes Alan Jones, not going to make it stick though. And Longhurst, even with that damage showing on the left-hand side of the car, not slowing him up at all, that's for sure.
just a little bit of spoiler damage there, which I don't really think his full under tray is still intact, so I don't really think there's much of a problem there with Tony.
Couple of good fights going on here. There's this one, of course, and right behind them there's a traffic jam as well with Dick, Glenn Seaton, Peter Brock involved in that one.
Let's go on board car number 6. This is Paul Radishich behind the wheel of the Allied Movers Ford Falcon.
He looks very relaxed there, doesn't he?
He always does, eh? Yeah,
he does.
Actually, I've had the pleasure of going for a flat around the track at a Ford Mondeo with him, and he really says it's amazing going from 300 to 600 horsepower, the difference between rear-wheel drive and front-wheel drive. But give him a tin top and he's into it. 2-litre World Touring Car Champion, of course, 93, 94. And looks like he might be moving into the pits.
Yeah, definitely a pit caller. So much damage on the front there that really it's a bit of a lost cause, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. You're really fighting an uphill battle with that. You can see how badly the under tray stuck under the car, and that's liable to release itself from there and go under and puncture a wheel down the straight, and that could be disaster for him.
Well, as MT said, he's had a disappointing year with the Mondeo being off the pace in the British Touring Car Championships. He was hoping to come back here and have a great time, of course, but looks like the old bad luck blues continue.
Oh, accident there for Alan Jones. Tangles with, is it Larry Perkins? Brocky's caught out there as well. So AJ's run, which had him up in 4th spot, that's taken a dive. He winds it back onto the track. He'll be running on mad for a bit now, probably.
And Jonesy is fairly renowned to fire up quite a bit, so it's going to be some sparks when he comes into the pits next time.
He had it off in practice, didn't he? Just down by going into the railway corner, so it'll be interesting to see what actually happened that time as they closed in on the hairpin.
In car
and you're behind Peter Brock's. This is the view from Brocky's. He was forced out wide from Glenn Seaton. And at this stage, someone's had a tap there.
I actually think Jonesy's tried to go down the inside of Russell and knock the backs up, like I was saying. You need to be fairly brave, and unfortunately hasn't pulled it off.
Well, he's already been given a nudge from behind, and now he's clipped Russell Ingall. And there he goes.
Yep. Well, Russell Ingall, that's knocked him back down the order too to about 7th spot now in all of that push and shove.
It's really opened it up for Bauer, who's actually closing on Murphy.
Longhurst picks up the 3rd spot as well behind Murph and John Bauer.
So I suppose it's whether or not Murphy's tyres are starting to go off.
Could well be, or with the way Murphy thinks he's a fairly cool operator, I really think that he could be backing off just a little bit, just to make sure that he does get to the finish without destroying a tyre.
You're not saying it doesn't want to make the Aussie boys look bad, do you?
No, not saying that at all, but at the moment he's just driving fantastic.
I've never seen him so pumped. I mean, this morning he turned up with Peter Brock and I said, how you going, mate? And he said, have you seen this crowd? This is fantastic, unbelievable.
He's a fairly sparky sort of a fellow, isn't he? I've been out with him a couple of times and he's definitely not boring, I can say the least.
Well, the funniest thing is he calls Craig Lowndes the psycho kid.
That's right.
Yeah, I wonder which one is really the one, eh?
Should be the twins, eh?
They are very well similar.
John Bauer starting to really close the gap. You can see that picture as they head towards the hairpin. Tony Longhurst in that slightly deranged Falcon running 3rd.
Just looking at the times there, Longhurst's last lap was 6/10 quicker than Bauer's last lap, so he's actually gaining quite a bit.
Right, this is the scene of the pits with Alan Jones. Obviously disappointed to be knocked out of that race.
Geez, Murphy's car is really fantastic. After 3 races and the 2 sets of tyres, he's still 2-wheeling it through those turns. It's just they've done an amazing job and they thoroughly deserve the win today.
And it's amazing that Greg Murphy always pays tribute to the team, right? To the Modal Holden Racing team, the HRT boys, to the hard-working mechanics behind the scenes.
Look at John Bauer. This is the fight for 2nd place. Tony Longhurst got right up there with him now. He's just inched that gap down to this now, what we see as we get down towards the later stages of the race. Fantastic performance out of Longhurst, the privateer sort of guy, really. He's sort of only in the scene for 2 years now, and he says that it's been a really steep learning curve just getting into driving one of these things after his BMWs. Now trying to make it stick against JB, but I don't think so, Steve.
And interesting, talking to Tony, he says he's really loving it now. He's got that bug back again, you know, because he knows that his car is competitive. I mean, they were 3rd at Bathurst this year. They're right up there, being a lot more. He says this track is a bit like Lakeside from here, fast, flowing, and a bit twisty, but really challenging for the drivers. This whole circuit, this whole part of the circuit is always flashing the lights to Johnny. Get out of the way, bro. I'm coming through, my big Ford. This is all like Lakeside, and then the back straight, it's a bit more like Sandown.
Yes, it's it's one of those tracks like Lakeside. It is bumpy, probably a little bit more bumpy than Lakeside, but to really drive hard and go fast and to put in the good lap times, you've got to be committed. There's no doubt about that, and this is one of the hard tracks to commit to.
Yeah, it was interesting yesterday when he took me for a drive around the track. I mean, we did 59.7 with a little wee fat Fijian like me inside the car, so he was still going flat out. 39 degrees though inside that car. I mean, hitting 40 degrees. No wonder the drivers sweat.
And that was on a cool overcast day. At Bathurst, when it was nice and sunny, they were getting up towards 50 degrees in the cars.
Gets a nice run here out of the hairpin, trying to make this trick stick where he goes around the outside on the left-hander. There's a run over the top of the hill. Let's see if he can do it.
There's a big go over the top of Mobile Mountain. Longhurst and Johnny Bow.
He's done it. Excellent stuff.
That's a very, very brave move from Tony. He actually did a fantastic job there, and Johnny Bow didn't relent it for a second, did he? He hung out there for as long as he could.
No, I didn't see John waving him through it all, that's for sure.
He's actually got his car handling superb. If you have a look, there's a little bit of a lock up there, a little bit of a moment coming onto the back straight, but his car's handling similar to Greg's. It's lifting wheels, it's got plenty of grip, whereas John's just trying to keep the car on the island at the moment.
And of course, Tony Longhurst has won the Wellington Street race before. So has this man, two-time champion, going for number 3, on board with number 05, Peter Brock.
Not turning out to be Brocky's day at the moment. He's back in 8th place, tracking down that Russell Ingall at the moment, and Paul Radisich behind him.
Brocky always looks fantastically cool behind the wheel, doesn't he? I suppose if I don't look that cool after the many years of racing that he's done, I'll probably give it up.
And the driving position here, they've moved their seat back a bit further.
Yes, they've moved everything back. They've moved the pedals back, which the pedals are more like a VW actually. They come up through the floor apart from down under the dash. And that's to get all the weight transferred back more towards the rear of the car, which balances it out a lot better.
And they're quite low too.
They are. They're basically trying to get the centre of gravity as low as they can, because the less body roll you can get into these cars, the more grip you'll have overall.
And Greg Murphy was saying about this, you can't even see the front of the bonnet.
No, you can't. That's dead right.
That'd be a bit of a worry going down the dipper, wouldn't it?
Yeah, disappear there for a minute. You see a bit of blue sky, then you're back down to the track, so it's not too bad. But it's hard because when you're behind a car, you've actually got to guess to where the front of the car is before you hit him. And if you hit him, obviously you know where the front of the car is, don't you?
But you never admit it, do you?
No, that's right. You always say that it's some sort of a mistake.
So Brocky trying hard to find a way. Look at this traffic jam here. Glenn Seaton tracking tracking Larry Perkins. These guys fighting for 5th, 6th, 7th places, and Brocky's at the tail end of that little group at the moment.
Geez, it's quite a good tussle, this one, actually, with only 3 laps to go. 2 laps to go now after they cross the finish line.
So it's still Greg Murphy in front, Tony Longhurst 2nd, John Bow 3rd, Dick Johnson 4th, Larry Perkins is 5th, Glenn Seaton 6th, then Russell Ingall, Peter Brock, Radisich, Jones of course out.
You know, with the way the tyres are that have been knocked away at the chicane down there, I'm not surprised that Tony Longhurst hit him, because of the left front of his car is fairly well dinged in. So
right, yeah, that could be right too. That may be where he sustained the damage. So 2nd place Longhurst, still John Bow holding down the next. Your dad next place.
Hey, he's catching the young fella, isn't he?
He is, I think, indeed.
But let's see what Tony Longhurst can do up on 3 wheels. A little bit of a bounce as they hit the bumps over the top of Mobile Mountain. That's John Bow in 3rd. Can Tony Longhurst close the gap on Greg Murphy? There's the difference. And there's 3rd place, followed by Dick Johnson. So Tony Longhurst trying to make a late move on the last lap. Greg Murphy down the back straight for the last time, going for 3 in a row in the hat-trick.
He'll be just cruising now, Greg. He's got plenty of lead. Once you see the cars that far back, you know you can break that extra 10 or 15 metres earlier and just make it to the finish, because there's no points in trying to go for a lap time on the last lap.
He knows he's got the right package. The package that has taken Craig Lowndes to victory in the Australian Touring Car Championships this year. The double at Sandown and Bathurst. A great drive by Greg to get behind the wheel after the disappointment of last year, not even getting behind the wheel when the cars broke down.
You know, you do have to have the package, but you've still got to drive it too, and he's done a fantastic job today.
So here he comes for the last time over the top of Mobile Mountain. Up goes the fist, down goes the checkered flag. Murphy gets the triple.
Great stuff, Greg. Fantastic. Just what the punters wanted to see. And boy, is this ever going to drag him in for Wellington next week. The fight right down to the line. That's Larry Perkins leading in, Glenn Seaton. Nice stuff.
So it's 3 in a row for Greg Murphy. Number 1, 3 times today. A sensational Sunday for him. Second, Tony Longhurst. Good to see him getting up for second place in the Ford Falcon. And John Bower rounding out the top 3 once again in the Ford Falcon 2. And there's Dick Johnson in 4th. Larry Perkins 5th. Glenn Seaton 6th. Russell Ingall 7th. Peter Brock has had one of the better days here at Pukekohe, coming home in 8th place. But it's still been a sensational field and a sensational performance by these Australian touring cars, the V8 Superstars.